Welcome to my picture book analysis by Kelly Lee Statt for Visual Design and Communications, Spring 2015. Let's get started. I chose to research and compare two stories, the first one, Mr. Seahorse, and the second one, Olivia Forms a Band. Let's take a look at Mr. Seahorse first. Mr. Seahorse, written by Eric Carle. Mr. Seahorse is a children's book published in 2004. When Mrs. Seahorse lays her eggs, she does it on Mr. Seahorse's belly. She knows he will take good care of them. While he swims waiting for the eggs to hatch, he meets some of the underwater fathers caring for their babies. Mr. Tilapia, who carries his babies in his mouth, and Mr. Curtis, who keeps his eye on his young hatchling. The book was written by Eric Carle in 2004 and was awarded the Laura Ingalls Wilde Award. My personal perspective. In my opinion, this is a pretty heavy topic for a preschooler to grasp. However, I do find it to be pretty impressive that the seahorse is one of the few creatures that the father and not the mother carry the pregnancy. The colors are gorgeous, and the use of watercolors is the perfect medium for this scintillating story. My historical perspective. There is not much referencing a historical perspective. However, because the topic of the father carrying a child to term is taboo, and that normally it is the mother known to carry the child, you can't help but to think that this is a counter-stereotype modern story. Also, Carly's use of transparencies pages in the book is a modern 21st century technology and medium. My ethical perspective. In this non-traditional lesson to teach children that there are few paternal underwater species that exist, where it isn't the mother that has the burden of carrying and caring for the eggs, this is a perfect example of the veil of ignorance perspective. Pregnant women forever have argued with their partners. What if the shoe was on the other foot, and you had to carry the baby for 9 months? My technical perspective. The artist Eric Carle's use of very basic, flat, two-dimensional perspective to teach preschooler a very elaborate lesson using repetition. Bright and bold multicolor collage illustrations that fill the page completely are created by cut-up tissue paper soaked in watercolors. As you move through the book, you will also find brightly colored illustrations of underwater life using the same technique on acetate transparencies for a hide-and-seek effect. My cultural perspective. It is not in our human culture that we would normally accept or experience a concept like this. However, in today's society, there are a growing number of non-traditional families where fathers are the primary parent. For example, in a divorced, widowed, adopted, or even in a same-sex relationship family. I think in our culture, it is great to introduce to young children that it isn't always the mother that takes care of the children. My critical perspective. In this story, I find it very comforting and positive the strength these fathers give to each other. As Mr. Seahorse swims through the ocean, he meets other fathers just like him and commends them for doing such a great job, all while he is growing a bigger orange belly full of baby seahorses. What is countercultural to us is that at the end he gives birth and one baby turns around to stay and he says, "Oh no, I do love you, but now you are ready to be on your own." This is a beautiful story that has a bit of a scary ending to a preschooler. A child would never expect to hear that from their parent at this age. It sends a message that growing up is sometimes hard. This is the end of my presentation for Mr. Seahorse, and we can now return home to continue. Now let's take a look at Olivia Forms a Band. Olivia Forms a Band is a 50-page children's book published in 2006. This brightly colored story is about a famous porcine that is excited to be going to the fireworks tonight, and Olivia can't hardly wait to hear the band. But when she finds out that there isn't going to be a band, she can't understand why not. How can there be fireworks without a band? Olivia sets out putting a band together all by herself. The book was written in 2001 by Ian Faulkner and was awarded the Caldecott Award for his award-winning series, Olivia. My historical perspective. Faulkner never really gives you an idea as to the exact time and date of the story, but you can guess from looking at the images of the marching band and the rock band in Olivia's thoughts that it is a modern-day story. Next, my personal perspective. What first drew me to Olivia Forms a Band was how attractive the colors were. In keeping with the repetition of colors from the series Faulkner uses, black, white, and red, and then in this book he decided to add a delightful flare of baby blue, which he creates a beautiful contrast of colors. I also really enjoy the perspective that he repeats throughout the series. Faulkner's characters are all line drawings with an emphasized drop shadow below the drawing, and it's drawn with perspective looking down on all characters. The angle and point of view is all shot from above looking down on the characters. As you can see with these three pigs, they all have the same perspective looking down with the drop shadow below. My technical perspective. Using line art pencil illustrations in stark minimalism and careful use of shading, Faulkner creates a fictional world of uncluttered images and characters built around his niece Olivia. With a perspective looking down on the small world of the young outgoing pig, he creates a spotlight on each of the characters with his use of the drop shadows. His use of type, size, color, and perspective creates this high-energy fictional world that you can't help but love and enjoy. My ethical perspective. As children need to have freedom to dream, imagine, and to be creative, even if it means a mess for mom and dad. All children make mistakes and defy their parents from time to time. Faulkner shows it's okay to let a child dream and embrace youth and their innocent mishappenings. My cultural perspective. I believe this story to take place in a modern-day America and culture. This modern fictional family is preparing a picnic to spend some quality time together and go see the fireworks celebration. The author leads you to believe it's 4th of July, however I think he didn't specifically state that for international appeal. From marching bands to rock bands to getting in trouble for wearing mommy's makeup, Faulkner implies modern-day American culture. My critical perspective. This story is portrayed very well and keeps in theme to the rest of his series. This young piglet gets a big idea and proves that she can do anything and all on her own. Then as quickly as she decides to develop a plan to build a band, her short attention span quickly leads her daydreaming into a mirror of playing makeup. At the end of the day, everyone had a great time at the fireworks show, and the only artistic part that I feel does not flow with the book was the few pages at the end where it was nighttime and the negative space becomes more dominating with the dark shading. All of the other pages seem to be bright lit with the white backgrounds. That concludes the presentation for Olivia Forms a Band. Let's return back to the home page menu. At this point, we have looked through both books, and I have my references. Feel free to take a look at the 6 different pages that I used to help build this PowerPoint presentation. I can return home. Thank you. Have a great day.